Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Early, and I am here with Alex Pennington, and you are listening to the Aspiring Writers United podcast, where we talk about writing advice, editing tips, and coaching for publishing success.
My name is Alex Pennington, and this is the Aspiring Writers podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about planting. Ashley, how would you define planting?
It's a combination of the first two episodes we talked about plotting and pantsing. And planting, oh my gosh, these words are a combination of the two.
I was under the impression that I was a planter, but Ashley says that's not true, and I'm just an outliner.
After everything you talked about in the first episode, I really do feel like you're an outliner.
What is the difference between the two?
So, an outliner does a very detailed outline of certain parts of their book. They'll outline pretty much the whole book in one way or another. But a planter will kind of write by the seat of their pants, but they'll also do like basic outlining. It's like someone compared it to like fast and loose outlining, where they're not even in chronological order. Sometimes they're like me, I do bullet points. It's just all over the place. And I feel like a lot of people do it differently. So I'm not sure how to define it.
So what you're saying is that it's more like you're pantsing both notes.
Yes, let's go with that. Like sticky notes, or, if you have Scrivener, you have that little box in the upper right-hand corner where you can just write the bullet points.
Okay, so it's like, for the majority of the story, you're pantsing, but you know where it's going. The stuff about the characters, about the plot. It's like in bowling where you're putting up the safety rails, so you're not going to go off course too much.
Yes. So for me, I use the bullet point method where, like, for instance, I'll be writing chapter 11 and I will get an idea of foreshadowing that I want to connect to chapter 12, the next chapter. And I'll just go ahead and add that chapter and write a note of, okay, this is what I want to have happen. And maybe I'll write a specific line that I want to connect to it, or dialogue will help connect those 2 points as well.
Okay, so I am definitely not a planter, is what I'm learning from this. That is not me.
I win. I was correct.
What do you think are the benefits of planting versus like outlining or being a pantser? Because it seems like a really neat combination of the two.
I think you kind of already said it with your bowling thing, where it's like you have the safety rails up. Because for me, I write the notes so I don't forget what I want to have happen in the next chapter. So say that I'm writing chapter 19 and I get an idea that I want to have in chapter like 25. I'll go ahead and go to that chapter 25 and I'll bullet point a note for a connection, or that since this event happened in chapter 19, I want this event to follow it in chapter 25. And that way I don't forget.
And your note, they're not like something you sat down to like outline. It's more just kind of ideas you got.
Yes. Yeah. It's more ideas and little notes of reminders and being like, okay, well, I really liked how this developed in this chapter. So I'm going to go ahead and add a note to do that again in this future chapter.
I kind of do a similar thing where I will text myself notes. That's like how I keep track of them.
You'll text yourself?
I do. Oh, I mean, I could put them in my official note thing, but it's like, I don't know. I'll just text. Because sometimes I get a notification. I'm like, oh, I need to go check this. Like, oh, that's right. I forgot about this idea I had at 2:00 in the morning.
That's actually pretty smart. If you get an idea at 2:00 in the morning, I like that.
I once actually spent like a half hour just texting myself notes, but it's like really good ideas. And I woke up the next morning. I'm like, wow, what was I talking about? Like, oh, wow,
yeah.
This is how I get over my writer's block. This is fantastic. Thank you.
That's actually really smart. I used to keep a notebook next to my bed to do that. Now I just open the notes app on my phone and have it there.
Yeah, I feel like I'm too lazy to actually physically write things down. Or I'll be like half awake and I won't even be able to like read it the next morning.
Oh my gosh, I know. That's happened to me. And I'm like, what is this brilliant thing that I wrote down and can't read now?
Do you ever get ideas from your dreams? Is that something that has happened to you?
I'm pretty sure when I was younger, but now that I'm in my almost mid-20s, like I can't remember most of my dreams. And if I do, it's literally for 2 seconds and it's gone.
Something I read once about Stephen King is that he actually made his son write down his nightmares in a journal.
I read a collection of short stories by Joe Hill and I could believe that.
I have to say, I actually, whenever I do have like a nightmare, I will sometimes like make a note of that. And I've used that material in my stories before, the horror stories.
I feel like I probably did for like how I wanted a creature to look when I was writing fantasy, but I don't remember those. I don't remember dreams anymore.
I actually have like, have you ever written a book, but like you're looking at it and going, it's pretty good, but not good enough, and you just end up doing nothing with it? Or maybe like you edit it, but it's still like, it's not quite there.
Everything I wrote before the age of like 21.
So that is the good stuff. We will have that available for our Patreon. No, I'm joking.
No.
We should
Oh,
do
God.
that.
No, we should not do
The
that.
early works of Ashley Early.
No.
If you donate $1 or more.
$1.
Well,
You just
I
only
didn't
work
think
for $1.
I didn't think they were that good. No, I'm joking.
No, I'm mortified that you're not selling it for like a penny.
I actually, so like I said, I have this ghost story that I wrote and I edited a lot. I almost do feel like, should I just put it out there for free to get some thoughts? Like, I can't tell, is this scary or terrible?
Oh, let me read it.
No, okay, I would do that. After, well, I like to get some actual feedback. I'm like, is this scary or am I just, I don't know, rambling about weird noises? I'm somebody who likes suspense in stories.
Yeah, we'll talk. Maybe if, after I'm done editing your current manuscript,
True.
and then you can send me the next one.
So many manuscripts.
I'm excited.
So as a planter, is this something that you've always been, or did you like kind of grow into it?
I grew into it. So originally I was a complete pantser. I didn't write anything down at all ever, and I just rolled with it. But then I realized that I would sit down after having an idea pop into my head that I did not write down, and realized that I completely forgot whatever it was that I was going to write for the next scene or whatever. And then I also started noticing inconsistencies and things that I should have connected when I was in the writing process, and instead I'm connecting it now in the revision process. And I feel like planting the way I do works really well for me as remembering what I want to write, because sometimes I'll, walk away from a project for a few weeks, while I was in school. So I would definitely forget what I was going to write about for the next chapter. And I feel like it's really helped me keep up with what I want to write and how I want to write it. And it's helped my writing overall, actually. I feel like with how I want to write things in specific ways, because I also like suspense and tension and mentioning creepy sounds and things like that.
Do you think there really is something to having like just some sort of direction to like, does it feel like kind of a safety net?
Yeah, I feel like it's a safety net because I just love your bowling alley analogy here. So it's the railings are up and I can see where the goal is. The rails are up. I have the ball and I know that I need to knock down each one of those pins, or at least all but one or two of them, to achieve my overall goal. And then when I go in the revision process, I'll go in and knock out the last two.
I find that I guess it would be pantsing because having either a really big outline like one of mine or just a kind of note, it eliminates writer's block almost. And this is one of the things James Patterson talked about in his master class, is that if you have an outline or this direction, it's kind of hard to get writer's block. It's like, where you're going already.
Yeah. Most of my writer's block occurs from, I don't know how to word this thing. And then I've always done this where I'll just put things in bold and then underline them also and just say blank.
I highlight.
You highlight.
Well, because I want to make sure that I don't miss it. And I have done that. I've actually sent a manuscript to somebody and their thought was like, you have something cool happen here and didn't write anything. Oh, I guess I did. That. Yes, I did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So imagine something cool happening. You have a brain.
That's funny. Maybe I should start highlighting, but I feel like I'd get annoyed when I go back to the revision process.
That's
and be like, oh my gosh,
that's part of it.
Not to be yellow.
And plus, then you get a bunch of anxiety because your entire manuscript is covered in yellow. A mistake I made was printing it out and underlining everything I wanted to change, because I ended up basically just underlining entire pages. This is all trash.
It's all gotta
go.
go.
All going.
Fire
everything.
pit time.
Every writer needs a burnable garbage can. It's just a fact. It provides you heat and confidence as you're saying your trash go up in the fire.
It'll keep you warm as you correct all of those mistakes and underlined pages.
It's more difficult to cry when you're around a nice warm fire.
Oh my God, you're cracking me up.
But for planting, so many words today. That is kind of where I started. Like, I didn't dive into, okay, I need to make a giant 50-page outline. I actually, and whenever I do start with an outline, I start with just bullet point. I'll start by just saying, okay, what's happening here, here, here. And then I'll slowly go into more and more details. Because I think a mistake a lot of writers make, especially when outlining, is thinking that you need to go into mass detail of everything, including the stonework of your buildings. But really, it's like, no, just start big, give yourself some bullet points, get the big ideas, then just outline as you need. Maybe you don't need a super big outline for your story, and you should just plant it.
Yeah, I think it's just a nice combination of the two, and it kind of complements each other because one chapter you can completely pants it, and then the next chapter you can have those little bullet points where you're like, okay, well, all these things happened in the last chapter, and I wrote by the seat of my pants. Now I have a little bit of structure, and we're gonna write what it says.
Something I will do actually for certain chapters is like, I'll just say what happens here. Like, okay, maybe this character, he gets a power up, he fights this character, and there's a cliffhanger. And that's all I'll outline. I won't like actually go into the details. I'll just give myself those like 3 bullet points and just kind of pants it.
Yeah, but maybe you do kind of plants.
A little bit. Pants.
Whatever it is, plants.
We will have official definitions in the description. No, we won't.
I do have it on my Instagram somewhere if anyone is actually interested.
I think if you're a new writer, one of the most important things that you can do is figure out what works for you. Because none of these methods are like surefire things that you either need to be a pantser, a planter, an outliner. And once you decide what you are, you can never change.
Yeah, no agent is going to be like, well, okay, did you fully outline this manuscript? Because you need to in order to become a best-selling author. It's not going to be something
Please submit your outline with your manuscript to make sure you showed your work.
It's called a synopsis, Alex.
Which is something see, that's the kind of nightmares you can write down as a writer, having to write a synopsis.
I've actually had nightmares about like not sending a synopsis to an agent that required one, which I have done. But during the query trenches time, you have those nightmares.
You misspell their name. You can learn all about our querying mistakes, mostly mine, in our first episode. But gosh, it's amazing the nightmares you get as a writer.
It's like, okay, school is over. You're not panicking about, you forgot to turn in a test. It's, oh my gosh, did I send a synopsis with my query letter to this agent?
Or when you accidentally push send and like you didn't actually read through your query letter.
And
I haven't done that.
And as it sends, one of the words is underlined in red.
Oh God. You will never know what it is.
It's gone. It's sent to the agent. It's over.
Did you know that you can unsend emails now?
What?
You can do that. I had somebody message me in the Facebook group that they sent an email to somebody and they're like, this person might be kind of spammy or scammer. They're like, is there any way I can get this back? And I actually Googled it and did some research. I'm like, believe it or not, you can actually unsend emails now.
Oh my gosh.
Google is a writer's best friend on every service.
They should have had that years ago when I was making all these mistakes with sending query letters addressed to the wrong agent. That would have been really nice. That would save me a lot of embarrassment.
I feel like we talk about Scrivener, Masterclass, Google. We are definitely going to get some sponsors one of these days.
Oh,
this
Google's
is going to happen.
Totally gonna sponsor us.
170 views on the first episode, everybody.
Woo, woo.
Into the big leagues.
We'll get there.
Do you have any final thoughts on being a planter?
Yes. Write everything down so you don't forget it like me, because I have the memory of Dory from Finding Nemo.
I'm the same like that. If I get an idea, it's like, no, stop what you're doing, write it down. You're going to forget this in an hour.
Yeah, put the coffee mug down. You don't need that extra sip. You need to just find a pen and paper and write it down.
Ironically, Stephen King, though, says to not do that. He says that, if you forget that idea, it probably wasn't worth remembering in the first place.
Oh, I remember that in his memoir. You're right.
So I'm like the anti-Stephen King because I kind of do the opposite of all of his advice, apparently.
I write everything down if I can remember it. If it was like something small, whatever. But if it's like a plot thing, then yeah.
I feel like by the time you've written like 50 books, you're like, I don't need these ideas. I'll figure out something. It'll work.
With how under the influence he was. You would think that he would have written everything down.
That's where the best ideas come from.
That's why most of us have alcoholic problems or whatever.
I like to listen to the band The Doors, and one thing they did to get some song inspiration was do peyote and go out into the desert and have a mystical experience.
I'll do that with Alex.
We'll have our episode on this next week. Oh no.
No, that's not a podcast episode. That's a YouTube video.
Yeah, we're gonna be actually Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. Do you know that?
No, I don't.
Oh, it's a sci-fi classic.
Oh,
But
that's
he
why I
wrote-
don't. I'm not a sci-fi person.
Oh, okay. But so he actually wrote a book called The Doors of Perception, which were the band The Doors got their name, and where he literally does mescaline, which is a concentrate of peyote, but like way more potent. And he actually had somebody film him, and he like wrote stuff down. It's either on this drug, and it is a fascinating world listening to him opening the doors of perception in his mind.
Oh, we should
So
do it.
Yep, that's so that is our final tip for how to get over writer's block. Mescaline. No, don't do that. Do not do that. Just open the doors to the interworkings of your mind and the ideas will flow.
Yes.
Thank you all for listening to this episode and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Which we don't know what it is yet, but
We will work on that.
figure it out.
It's going to be something entertaining. By the way, if you are a writer or self-published author or traditional author, and you're wanting to promote your books and writings or social media platforms, please join the Aspiring Writers United Facebook group. We are just under 60,000 members, and it's an amazing opportunity to get some eyes on your work. Thank you all for listening.
See you guys next time.